Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Adam Mueller, with the State Your Business podcast. And today I have Alosha with me with Endless Poxybilities. And we were talking with a mutual friend of ours, Eric
Yep.
from Bold North Roofing on the last show. And we struck up a conversation. Thought it would be a good idea to get you on the show.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So Alosha, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your background and how you got into this business.
Sure. So as far as the background goes, where do we want to start as far as the background?
I guess if you don't mind sharing just like upbringing and
Sure.
what was your childhood like?
Yep. So I would say I had the traditional childhood of being born and raised in Russia.
Okay.
At the age of 9, my two sisters and I, we were very fortunate to have been adopted to the U.S., specifically here in Minnesota. We came over here, we got integrated into the U.S. We were part of a already mixed family, so that was kind of exciting. Family, 6 of us. Grew up here in Elk River, Minnesota, had a very, very nice childhood. We had everything we ever wanted. From there on, I experienced some life turbulences that kind of brought me to my mid-20s, where I started getting things together. And then...
I think I could read between the lines on that. I got a
Yes.
few myself.
Yes. I went through a life searching process for very, very many years.
Okay.
Experiences with alcoholism, addictions, things of that nature. So yeah.
Okay.
And then as far as some of the adult background, I got a job at CDI in Elk River at the age of 25, and this company, for lack of better words, just changed my life.
What do they do?
So CDI builds curb adapters.
Okay.
They are rooftop unit, HVAC adapting units that adapt, those big commercial size HVAC units to the buildings. Just boxes that move air. So I get this job at the age of 25. I didn't have any of the skills. There was nothing that I possessed to have gotten that job. All I had was just a willingness to show up and work. And throughout the couple of years that I was there, I was given a lot of opportunities to learn, move up, learn how to weld, learn how to run machines, learn how to insulate. And then throughout those couple of years, I had an opportunity to get in some leadership positions. So that was a big life development moment for me. Those couple of years that I was there, I was able to purchase a home with my wife. Just a lot of those basic needs this company provided me with.
What age were you when you got married?
So I got married 2 years ago.
Okay.
So 30.
Okay.
So at the time she was, we'd been dating for 4 or 5 years, so a girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
But we were able to purchase a home. So this job gave me everything that I wanted, right? The ability to learn, the ability to move up, purchase a home. And it was a bigger company. They were a $100 million company, national company. So a lot of opportunities there.
And was this your first opportunity in a leadership role?
It was.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. And one of the cool things that I found out throughout that process, that you can be very, very good at a particular skill or a job that doesn't necessarily translate into being a good leader. As soon as I got some of those leadership positions, I quickly found out that I did not possess a lot of those leadership skills. I was very fortunate to have been given an opportunity to go through a Dale Carnegie course. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
So it was like a weekly course that they broadcasted, through the TV. It was a leadership course. And starting at, if we say leadership is a numerical
Value.
I was at like a -10.
Man.
So you sit down and they say, okay, treat people this way, don't say this, value people, value their time, ask them, how their day is going, lead this way, not this way. So I'd sit in these classes on every Wednesday for 2 hours, and then I'd get an opportunity to walk out in the shop and instantly practice, some of those things that we just discussed. And there were just huge improvements in the way I interacted with people, in the way that people interacted with me, some of the ways to motivate a team. So that was really incredible. It was a cool process.
At any point when you were going through this leadership training, because I'm just thinking from my background, sounds somewhat similar with yours. Especially with men, I feel like we kind of go a little bit sideways in the earlier years, trying to figure things out, trying to figure out life. Did you have any thought towards, man, I wish I would have learned this when I was 18?
Absolutely. Even to this day, there's things that I do on a day-to-day basis where you do it for the first time at the age of 32, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Like, imagine had I learned this back at 18. Some of these leadership skills or sales skills, all these like fundamental skills to make people successful. Had we started those things at the age of 18, where would we be today? Right. So yes, absolutely. But it's one of those things that you don't know that you need until you need it, which is typically too late. Right.
Yep.
So that was a really cool experience, being introduced to it. Right. The course was just a way to get people to understand that this is a ongoing skill that you need to just continuously work on and build on. And that's what it was for me. Just get me to think about it in that light, that this is an ongoing thing I need to work on.
To open your eyes.
To open my eyes.
At what age was this?
So this was at 27.
27, okay.
27. The traditional way that I was motivated was I was given a task and it needs to be done at all costs, right? And so I thought that other people were motivated that way too. Here's a goal, here's a task, we're just gonna move mountains to get it done. It doesn't matter what happens or what the casualties are, it just has to get done. But not everybody operates that way. Not everybody is motivated in that way. And we need to figure out what motivates each person individually and get them to collaborate on a particular project, right?
Now you're talking team building.
Team building, yes. Working with individual people to come together as a team. That was a really, really cool experience for me. So CDI, the best job I ever had, the best thing that's ever happened to me. Fast forward a couple years and we get into COVID times. It was probably the best and the worst thing to happen to that company. If we look back at, the things that happened during the COVID times, interest rates fell. The labor market fell. And so for CDI in particular, people that are getting these new curb adapters, new HVAC, renovation projects, and they're expensive projects. With the interest rates falling, everybody took advantage of that and wanted to do these major renovations during that time. So the business essentially doubled and we lost half the workforce.
Gosh.
It was that perfect storm. And a year of that just wore me out. You're working 70, 80 hours a week straight on through for a whole year. I got burnt out. I lost my passion for it. I had no desire to get up to go to work. I just couldn't do it anymore. That was the time that I started exploring different options, different paths in life. Prior to this, I couldn't have imagined myself ever leaving that company. I had that much buy-in. I had that much love for the company. Just that 1 year, got me to a place where I couldn't come back from. So this was November, December that I'm feeling these things. I need to, look at different options. I'm looking at going to school, looking at different companies. Nothing's really catching my eye. And fast forward to January, I'm laying on the couch, and this is the inception of Endless Poxybilities. If I'm missing anything, or if you want to know.
You're good. You're
Okay.
great, man. This is intriguing.
So fast forward to January, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm scrolling Facebook, and I come across an old friend of mine from a few years prior. He was down in Texas, and he had started a company doing garage floor coatings and metallic coatings, all these different types of coatings.
All the bougie coatings, the
All-
marble and the
Yes,
yeah.
yes, and he's posting all the pretty pictures, and it just caught my eye. It's like, what is this? Prior to exploring his Facebook page, I had zero familiarity with it. I wasn't a person that walked around looking at the ground, seeing what kind of floor it was. The way I am now, every room I walk into, I always look at the floor. But I didn't notice things. Did not notice those things before. And I'm scrolling through, and I just get incredibly fascinated with the stuff. I go on YouTube. I start watching YouTube videos, and for 3 days straight, I cannot get this idea out of my mind. This is something I want to do, and I start creating like these ideas in my head. I start searching other companies around the area. The things that I kind of concluded was there was a barrier to entry. This much I understood without having a whole lot of business knowledge. I understood that there was a barrier to entry. You had to buy this equipment. You had to buy generators, trucks, grinders. It's not like going to Home Depot and getting a paint roller and becoming a painter the next day. So there's a barrier to entry. There really wasn't that much competition in our area of people doing it in 2022. So so there's not a whole lot of competition, barrier to entry. This is something I'm fascinated with. It's kind of a skilled trade, skilled labor. After 3 days of just being obsessed with it, I made up my mind. This is what we're gonna do. So the next step is telling my wife. Okay, mind you, we just bought a house. She just graduated school. We're just kind of starting, just get settled in. I mean, we just got settled in.
So you're gonna go tell your wife that you're just getting settled down with and just bought a house with.
Yep.
That you're gonna go get into a business that you don't know anything about.
Don't know anything about business. Don't know anything about these coatings.
I love it.
Yes, and now I have to convince her that this is a real thing. This isn't just one of my fantasy ideas, because I had a lot of fantasy ideas.
Sure.
Right? The ideas that lasted for 30 minutes, and I was super excited about it, and I'd share it with her. And
You get a little dopamine hit just having an idea and talking about it.
Yeah, I got this idea. And I don't know how she felt about this. Maybe she thought this was going to be another idea, but it lasted for a couple of days, so she took it a little bit seriously. And bless her heart, she had absolute full support. I could look at her face, and I could see that she was, maybe potentially worried, or she had some of those like realistic hesitations of, what are we doing here? But I got the full support from her. She said, I trust you. I believe in you. Go off and do this. And she had just gotten a job too, where theoretically she could support us. The house that we bought, we put a renter in the basement. So we were really positioned in life to be able to do this. And she gave me the full support to pursue this. After those 3 days, I went in to my work and I said, hey, I'd like to step down from my position. I'm going to go do this. I asked them to allow me to stay on part-time, for the 2-3 months that I was going to get this going. So they allowed me to work in the mornings, kind of keep some money coming in. And then afternoons spent getting this going.
That's pretty cool they were willing to work with you.
Yeah.
A lot of places say, hit the road, Jack.
Yeah. And I'm very grateful for that too. They know that I gave everything that I got, during the time that I was there, and that was their way of, thanking me essentially for the time that I was there. So very, very fortunate.
Really shows a lot in character
Yes,
on their part.
absolutely.
You know, they weren't just giving you leadership training to make their place better. They were really investing in you. And so when you came to them and said, "Hey, I'm going to start investing in myself,"
Yeah.
they stood behind that too.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then the first thing that came out of my manager's mouth, he goes, "You can practice on my garage." So I love it. And we did. The first floor that we did was,
Oh, the
or-
first floor.
or excuse me, the second floor that we did was practice on his garage. Yeah, just to figure it out. So that was cool.
Yeah. I figured there'd be a couple trials in there.
Exactly. Oh man, so many trials. And so that winter from January to April, we had a hard date set, April 3rd, we were going to do our first floor. How? No idea. We put it on the board. It was going to get done. And there was a lot of going on Facebook, joining different groups, asking different questions. During the time that at CDI, I had built a relationship with a gentleman. His name was Nick Lysdell as well. Nick at the time was the smartest person I knew, right? He was very business savvy. He ended up moving on at the time, but he was one of the first calls that I made as well to Nick. And I, pitched him this idea. This is what I was going to do. He said, "That's a great idea. Let me know if I can help you in any way." And so he helped me with the business plan. He helped me create projections. He gave me everything I needed to go to the bank and get a loan. So we got the loan in place. We found a supplier, found the first couple people to join the company. My best friend Noah that I grew up with, and then Micah, the gentleman you met, was Taylor's friend. So it was us three, and we were going to go conquer the world. I started posting in I joined every single Facebook community page, took a bunch of stock pictures off of Google, and just started posting all over Facebook. We got a job or two that way. Came to actually installing the floor, and oh man, was that a trip. It seems so simple. The idea of it just seems so simple.
In concept.
We went and did a 2-day training class or 3-day training class supplier. And then we got out in the field, and it's like, this isn't a perfect concrete box. This is, you have this.
Oil stains, cracks.
All these things.
Pitted.
Yes. Very, very fortunate to have the people around me. Mike, I know that the guys are very fortunate to have those guys around me. Very smart people. They took, they invested in the company to get it going. So very fortunate to have those guys. And then we just.
It was number 1, then it was number 10.
Yeah, it was number 1, number 10.
Then you had to figure out, how do you invoice these people?
Yes.
And then how do you do your taxes?
Yes.
See, there's all the other stuff that, if someone hasn't ran a business, it's not just going from concept to production. Then you got the back end side of it. So you're figuring all that out, or was your wife doing that?
No. The invoicing portion of it found like a $30 a month estimating invoicing software, started using that, used Google Calendar to schedule jobs. It was super messy. It was the type of person that I am. I don't sit down. I don't do a whole lot of research. I don't, really.
You just want to go.
Just want to go. Just kind of figure out as we go.
Yeah.
So that's all. The entire year was just going forward and just figuring things out as they were breaking. The minute something broke, that's when the solution was found. Now we're kind of trying to get out of that pattern. Other people around me that are, helping actually solve problems and not just breaking things and fixing it. So that's been nice. But yeah, invoicing, accounting. Hired an accounting firm to help out with that, but that was very difficult. Taxes, that was difficult. Just finding work, that was hard. We didn't know how to advertise, we didn't know how to market. spent the weekends door knocking, went around door knocking. There's a lot of lessons in that.
Yeah, tell me about a lesson in door knocking. Chased by a dog, or what are we talking here?
So the lesson, so we thought this is before we had an idea of who our avatar is, who our customer is. We thought that people that lived in new $400,000 home value development were our customers. So we'd go to Dayton, we'd go to Rogers in these new DR Horn neighborhoods, and we'd knock on doors, and we'd spend an entire day in there and get nothing out of it. Come to find out that $400,000 homes are the new starter homes. Families that are in their early 30s, they are not in the market for what we have. They need a deck, they need to finish their basement, they just moved in. So we spent a lot of time in the wrong areas. And then accidentally went into a neighborhood in Corcoran. There were single story homes. There was, home values of 600, 700,000. And the age of people that were living there were 50 to 70. And those are the people with the expendable income. Those are the people that have lived in homes for the last 30 years, that have seen their concrete degrade. So they see the need, they see the value, and they have the income for it. Now we got some traction in those homes. So that was the lesson.
How long did it take to learn that?
Oh, this was
a year?
No, I mean this is after it all happened accidentally. We just so happened to be in that neighborhood, and then we found success in that neighborhood, and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because in the other neighborhoods they said we have a deck to build, and then you get in this other neighborhood and they said, oh yeah, this is great. My garage floor fell apart last year at our other home, so it happened very quick. That first year, our goal going into the year, again, this was based off absolutely nothing other than just what we thought was correct. Our revenue goal for that year was $250,000, and we finished that year out with $400,000, just like despite ourselves. We just showed up every single day and things happened for us.
So almost double
What we anticipated. And then going into the following year, the vision, the goal from the start was always to build a large company. I am very, very passionate about that because of my experiences at CDI. The things that company provided me, I want to be able to create a company to provide that to other people. Very difficult to do it with a company of 5 or 6 employees, where you come in and you gotta wait till Joe that retires in 10 years, right? You build a bigger company, people can come in, they have an opportunity to learn, move up, get those leadership experiences. So that's what I'm really, really passionate about, and that's what I want to recreate with Endless Poxybilities. So the goal was always growth. The goal was always to create this big company. And creating the path forward, at first it was, we're going to start with 1 truck the first year, add the 2nd truck the next year, add the 3rd truck next year. We finished up that first year. Heading into the 2nd year, we had to stick to our goals, to add that 2nd truck. That first year was so messy. That first year was so difficult. I mean, it was just pure chaos the entire year. Things that we just don't know. We're breaking things and fixing them as we go. I didn't have a lot of those systems and processes in place. I was recommended a book through a friend of ours, The E-Myth. I started listening to Audible, and a lot of the things that I was experiencing at that time, they were addressing in the first 2 or 3 pages. I said, this is it. This is the answer. So I rented a cabin up north that weekend, went up there, listened to the book, and just sat down and just wrote out as many systems and processes as we could. Came back, try to standardize things, try to put things, create just some order out of the chaos that we had. And then that 2nd year, we added that 2nd truck. That 2nd year, went way better than the first year operationally, right? Just through those small beginner processes and systems. And then from that year, it was into our third year. We added the third truck. And then this year, we added 3 trucks. So we're at 6 trucks this year.
How many employees do you have now?
We are at 20 employees today.
That's fantastic.
20 employees, and our second location just went live in Lakeville in March.
Wow.
Yep.
What made you want to go to Lakeville?
Great question. So Lakeville is, we'll call it a prototype. It's a test. It's a the idea behind Lakeville was to start a second location near our home base, near home, to be able to go down there, figure out what it takes to greenfield a second location. Essentially create the system and process for what it takes to create one, in order to then go on and create more and more locations as we go. The idea of growth for us is to be a multi-state operator, tackle this Midwest, and Lakeville is just our test essentially. So I personally went down there in March and have been working on getting that going for the last few months. It's going well, creating a system out of it. And then Lakeville too is just it's a great market.
And you have to drive what? That's probably an hour?
It's an hour there, an hour back.
Okay.
I got a little couch set up in there just in case it's a longer night. I can just crash on the couch, so I don't have to go. Yeah, my the rule of thumb is if I'm not done working by 6 o'clock, I'm staying down there, because it's an hour drive home. Then at 7, then you go to bed at 8, and then you got to wake up at 4, and then it's an hour drive there. So that's my rule of thumb, and it's only happened probably a dozen times.
Out of your 20 employees that work for you, how much of that is in the field actually doing the flooring or the coatings?
Sure. I want to say 12 or 13.
Okay.
12 or 13. And then we've got 2 salespeople right now. We're hiring for the third. We've got a customer service rep. We've got supervisors and a manager, a couple managers. So we have some of that support staff. And I want to say 12 or 13 are actually installing. So it's two people per truck that install these floors. Yep.
And then what did you guys do in revenue year 2? So that would have been 23?
Yep. So we went from 400 that first year to 1.1 that second year. I don't know what it is about crossing that $1 million line, but it's just like that mythical mile marker just to cross that line. And that was a rough year. That was a rough year. And I'm had my eyes set on that, and a lot of mistakes happened, just trying to chase that top line revenue. Learned a lot.
Did you see the bottom line suffer a little bit proportionally?
Absolutely. Being focused on the top line revenue ultimately blindsided me saying yes to work we shouldn't have been saying yes to. Taking on jobs that we knew we didn't have the skill set or the equipment. So yes, we suffered a lot internally as a company and financially. The amount of work that went into it to close out a 6% net profit at the end of the year was not worth it, right? But it's hindsight. We wanted to cross that line, so we made we crossed it, but we made a lot of sacrifices in the meantime.
Have you noticed that if you see a job, a big ticket job, where you almost get infatuated just by the number, that there's this crazy workload that goes with it that's easy to underestimate?
Yes, and we are going through that right now with the big commercial job. We took this job last April. It filled a need in our revenue goal, it was exciting, all these things. You have a plan going into it. It's going to be this, it's going to be this. And, 2 months later, you're still working on it, and it's not that at all. So we're still learning that lesson today, just not as frequently, I don't think.
You're still a young company, though. You're on your 4th year?
Let's see. So we had our 3rd year anniversary in April. Yep. So we're into our 4th year.
Okay.
Yep.
So $400K in 22.
Yep.
1.1
Yes.
in 23.
Yep.
How'd you close out in 24?
At 2.1.
Awesome.
2.1. Yep. So we closed at 2.1. And then this year we are projected to do 4.5, and then our stretch is 5. So that's 4.5 on paper, and then our stretch is 5. We always go for the stretch goal. So
Congratulations on that.
thank you.
And what do you think you'll add for staff? Will you need to add more staff to hit that?
We are in the market for 2 more people.
2 more sales?
2 more, 1 more sales, and then another production guy.
Okay.
Yep.
And how do you go about finding the production people? Do you create them? Kind of like CDI did, where they take someone like, because I know there's that tie-in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you want to bring that to your own company. So are you creating the leadership through training courses, or how does the CDI training atmosphere tie into Endless Poxybilities?
Yes. So I am very fascinated with the idea of creating a high pressure environment. Okay. And here's what I mean by that. Creating an environment where there's a lot of pressure for people to grow under. Okay. We hire people without experience. We bring them in. I showed you that test lab out there. We do a little bit of testing in-house, and then we get out into the field. Once they get out into the field, it's very fast-paced, 4 or 5 days a week, a high-pressure environment. And what happens through that process is we do have some casualties in the meantime. There are people that don't work in those environments, and that's okay. They can go on, they can go get another job, they can, go on through their lives, and that's all right. But there are other people, I believe, that have a lot of potential that are never exposed to what they're truly capable of. And I truly believe, the same way I was at CDI, I was put into a high pressure environment, and I got to learn a lot of my potential through that process. And I believe we have that here too. We have people that came on last year, worked for 3 months, and they went straight into a leadership role, into a role that they weren't ready for, created a lot of that pressure, and they grew substantially because of that. Being a fast-growing company, we don't have a whole lot of time to invest in people. They're put in these positions, and they essentially grow naturally through that whole process.
It's time to put your wings on, buddy.
Yes. Yep. And those are some peak growth opportunities for people to be exposed to things that they're not ready for, to tackle things. Ideally, later on as we grow and we have opportunities to develop some of those training programs, we'll get into that. But being so young and growing at the rate that we're growing, we don't have those luxuries right now.
So speaking of luxuries,
yes,
while you grow, let's talk a little bit about this building.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Lakeville. So I'd imagine you didn't just come here and voila,
yeah,
you're in a nice fancy building. How did that look? What did you operate out of the first time?
Oh man, it's fun looking back on it. The time horizon seems a lot longer than it really is, but we started out of a little shed in my backyard. That whole first summer was out of a shed in my backyard. The truck and everything was parked in my driveway. And then fast forward to the second year, we found a landscape company in Elk River to rent us a 10 by 10 corner inside their shop. So we just piled all of our stuff in this literally a 10 by 10 corner. So we operated out of there the second year. And then the third year, we got 1,000 square foot heated shop, and it was like the greatest thing in the world. It was, our own space. It was cool. And then this building we'd purchased last September. So back to, we're very, very goal orientated, right? Around here, things don't just happen. Things are always planned a year in advance. So we had a plan for this particular building to be bought a year prior. We wanted to buy a building, build a training center. These are the things that we wanted, and that process started a year before. Spent an entire year looking. And the unique and cool story behind this particular building too. So before I started this business, I met Jay. Jay owned Roll Air, and him and I got connected through a friend. He found out that I was starting a business, so I came out to this building. He sat down, he mentored me, showed me his spot, and on the other side of this building, he showed me his training center. So they have HVAC systems set up in there, they have plumbing systems set up in there, and he was showing me how he trains his people. He takes people with no experience, brings them in, trains them, and I thought, wow, that's such a great idea. I want to do the same thing. I want to build a training center where we can train in-house. Fast forward 3 years, he's selling this building where I was sitting in and had this idea of buying a building to build a training center.
That's awesome.
The same exact one. So he was selling it.
Did he sell the company and then sell the property separate, or did he move on and then sell the building?
Yeah, so he sold the company and then sold the building separately. Yep. So we still have that other company renting the other side, and then we're on this side.
So you have a tenant on that side,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have you guys over here.
Yep.
And then you operated how long out of here before you went to Lakeville? Couldn't have been too long.
No, so we got into this building in March, and we got into Lakeville in January.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the setup at Lakeville? Is that a lease? Did you buy it?
So we bought that too. It's one of those business condos. It's a 2,000 square foot business condo with a mezzanine. It's enough to get 2 trucks inside and store all of our stuff in there. We went down there initially to look at it. We were about to sign a lease, and then looked at buying it, and at the moment it made financial sense just to buy it versus leasing it. We're paying less to own it than we would have leasing it. So
yeah, and you get the depreciation.
The depreciation and some of that appreciation over the time too.
Correct.
So yeah, it's been a crazy year. We acquired 2 properties. We double in size, and now we're just trying to keep it on the road. Yeah.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
So you got 2 locations in 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
or technically going on 4,
Yeah.
and you have roughly 20 employees.
Yes.
What is you talk about planning ahead. I know you touched a little bit on you want it to be a national. Did I understand that right?
Multi-state.
Multi-state. So maybe the surrounding states or something like that?
Yep.
Upper Midwest. Have you thought about your exit strategy?
Yes.
At 32 years old,
Yes.
thinking of an exit. Love it.
Absolutely. So the exit plan, the exit idea in place right now, my wife and I have committed to essentially giving everything that we have for the next 8 years. At the age of 40 is when I want to be done.
Let me set that in my calendar here.
At the age of 40, exactly. So my wife works in the business now too. She came on in July it's a lot of work, right? There are a lot of days out of our lives that we're putting our marriage to the side, right? We we don't have those 6 o'clock dinners. When we see each other, we're usually talking about business. If one person's stressed, then it takes a lot to work together in a company like this, and we are making a lot of those sacrifices today. But we don't want to do this for the next 30 years either. So we have a plan in place that we're going to give it the next 8 years and exit.
So a 10-year exit.
A 10-year exit.
Familiar with that?
Yes. Yep. You're very familiar with that.
10 years is a staple for a business cycle, statistically speaking. So you said she's at a B&I. So is she running around networking with other businesses? Is that kind of what she's doing?
Yeah. We participate in B&I. We're part of 3 different groups. I started in a B&I group, and it was incredibly beneficial for me. Being a new business owner, not knowing anything, not knowing anyone, I got a lot. I met a lot of people that have mentored and helped me out throughout the years, and we've stuck with B&I since. So she's taken over my seat that I was at last year. So, yep, she does a little bit of the networking stuff and then manages this location.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Man, you got to be proud looking back.
Someday, yeah. When we get the opportunity to sit back and reflect, but those are very, very rare, right?
Any kids?
No kids.
Okay, so is that where the 40 plan comes in?
No plan for kids. No plan for kids. We have a dog. Very happy with her. She's
the baby gate. I mean, doggy gate.
Hence the baby gate. Yep. No, we have ideas of things we want to accomplish with the rest of our lives afterwards. Some social work and stuff like that. But no kids.
Okay.
Yeah. Rocket
solo.
Yes. And we have enough nieces and nephews, between the 2 of us that we'll get those fixes elsewhere.
Now, you mentioned an adoption process. Was that with a foster family or adopted family?
An adopted family. So we came over here and got adopted to a family here.
Do you still talk with them?
My adopted family? Yes.
Okay.
Yep, have a good relationship with them. They retired, moved out to a lake in Isanti. They're living a great life out there, but yeah.
I wonder how many of the people they adopted have a success story like yours.
So they only adopted us 3. It wasn't a foster situation. We just got adopted to a specific family, and we grew up with them. But all 3 of us we're in a better place than we would have been otherwise.
That's awesome. That's so cool that they did that.
Yes. And they were, I don't know what they were thinking at the time, because they had 4 kids already, and, they added another 3 to the mix. So very fortunate that they did, but that was a bold move for them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people signing up to have kids, let alone,
Yeah.
Let alone adding 3 to a family of already 4.
Yeah.
Or technically 6.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so earlier I said we had 6. There's 7 of us. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's 7 of us kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the age range? Are you guys all pretty tight, close together?
No, let's see. The age, I think we have, our oldest brother is like 43, and then the youngest is 26.
Okay.
26, and then I'm right in the middle, I think. Yeah, I'm right in the middle. So,
did any of them start a business like you did?
No. No, most of them, a couple of them went to school. they have found their paths, and a couple of brothers in banking, healthcare, stuff like that. So they found their own paths, but I guess this would be the first business in the family.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Appreciate you being on the show, man.
Thank you.